Hi guys, today we're going to look at how IBM's old beamspring switches worked. These are agreed by many to be among the finest, if not the best switches ever made, and they work using a really interesting principle. For those of you who are unfamiliar with them, this is what they look like stuck to an acrylic plate at the bottom so you can see how they operate. The switches are normally open at the bottom and placed on a capacitive circuit board like this. The beamspring switch, or beam and fly spring interlock as IBM called them, are a rather complex design by Richard Hunter Harris, who also developed the later buckling springs that replaced them. The name comes from this plate spring or beam spring here, which is riveted to the slider and which interlocks with this fly spring below it. Fixed to the fly spring in turn is a fly plate, which is a square pad of conductive plastic that acts as a tertiary capacitive element to which the two capacitive plates on the PCB below respond. The sensing method is therefore basically the same as that of the capacitive buckling springs in the late Model F. Two separated plates on a PCB get increased capacitance when the flipper is flipped down on it when you press a key. The keyboard then detects the change in capacitance compared to a third reference electrode at the back and registers the key press accordingly. With beam springs, however, the plate isn't pushed down on the PCB when you press a key, it's lifted off it instead, so it works the other way around. The way this works is by virtue of the interlock mechanism. When you press a key down far enough, the beam spring inverts, and this causes the fly plate below to be lifted off the PCB. This spring flip is also what causes both the tactile key feel and the clicky noise of the switch. At the top, meanwhile, are several supporting elements. First is this curiously shaped pin thing which goes into the slider. On one hand, it prevents the key from being pressed down too far, otherwise you'd push the fly plate back into the PCB, and second, it provides the mounting point for the keycap. Second is an external coil spring, which provides the return force and makes sure that when you release the key, it's pulled back up again. And third is a rubber O-ring that dampens the impact of the metal keycap pin on the switch housing. The rest is just the switch housing. The switches are really big and tall because they're from an era where keyboard height ergonomics hadn't been standardized yet. In the early 80s, this led to a complete redesign of virtually all tall keyboard switches in existence, leading to switches such as Cherry MX. They were also originally designed to be user-replaceable in the field using loose modules bought from IBM, although they were rated at 100 million key presses each, so this was likely not a common issue. The interlocking mechanisms of the two plate springs gives a really unique key feel and sound, which is rather lightly tactile, but extremely pleasant and unbelievably smooth. It's definitely a really cool and good design, although they were later replaced by the cheaper, lower height and less dust-sensitive buckling springs. Harta recently recorded a force curve of a new old stock switch of these beam springs, and just look at it. It's the nicest, cleanest, smoothest force curve I've ever seen. It's a testament to how incredibly nice and well designed this switch is. Comprised of 8 parts in total: the housing, slider, beam spring, fly plate, pin, O-ring and coil spring, it is only moderate in complexity, which you might not expect of such a sophisticated feeling switch. Most parts aren't even particularly intricate either. That's it for this switch teardown. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next video.
Being behind the